Welcome to our presentation today on cyber insurance and IT strategies. We are happy to bring this to you guys today. And at the end of the presentation, we will be asking you to just confirm a couple of things, and then we will be sending you a gift certificate for lunch on us since you have taken the time out of your day to spend a few minutes with us. Mark, if you will pull up the agenda today, we'll get going with that. This is just a good little overview agenda. First of all, some people need to know the difference between their cyber insurance and their regular business insurance. And then we're going to go over the role of IT strategy in your cyber insurance plan. And we've seen some changes from some insurance agencies. So we definitely want to go over what insurers are now requiring as part of your insurance policy and as part of what you have to have in place to ensure that your claims do get paid out if you have an issue or a reason to have that happen. The common reasons that claims are denied will go along with that, that what I just mentioned is because maybe somebody hasn't completely adhered to the items that the cyber insurance policy has asked. So Mark's going to go over those. And what do IT service providers like Nomerel do to fit into that process with you and what we can do to help you? So Mark, you ready to take over from here?
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to hide my picture and give it to you for the rest of the time.
Okay. Well, what is cyber insurance? Cyber insurance is designed to protect from the financial consequences of cyber incidents, such as ransomware, data breaches, and email compromise. It helps you recover without bearing the full burden of the damages 100% on yourself. Depending on your coverage, and there are different coverages out there, it can help pay for data recovery, your legal fees, regulatory fines, customer notifications, even your credit monitoring and business interruption costs. It's really important that you go through with your agent and determine what level of coverage and payout you have on your policies. We have seen some policies that have been sent to us by our clients that cover the ransom payment costs. And most of those insurance providers do have a process that you have to follow. And it would be good with your IT provider or your internal IT management team to have that documented into your incident response plan. It's more than a safety net, this type of coverage. It's more of a cushion that helps your business survive and recover. There are businesses that do not and cannot recover from a cyber incident. Qualifying for it isn't automatic, and your strategy, policies, and procedures, and how you answer your questions help you get the coverage that's needed and stay covered. The next slide is the role of IT strategy in your cyber insurance. I will say that in the past, let's say 3 years ago, we'd see an average of 20 to 30 questions on a cyber insurance policy application from one of our clients. Today, we're seeing between, I would say, 55 and 75 questions. They're much more specific. So, with the cyber attacks increasing in frequency and complexity, the insurance companies are tightening their requirements. Getting cyber insurance today is a lot harder than it was even a year ago. But the thing is it's not enough to simply purchase the policy. What the providers want to see is evidence that you're actively protecting your systems and reducing the risk. And evidence is the key word here. This is where your IT strategy comes in. A strong, forward-thinking IT strategy demonstrates that you're not only aware of the cyber threats, but actively defending against them. This helps you qualify for coverage and avoids your costly denials. Let's see what some of the insurers are expecting from your security environment. These are the common things that we generally see to get covered. And the insurance providers aren't taking your word for it. They're asking for evidence in the policy application, but more specifically in any payout requirement. Things that they want to see are multi-factor authentication. To guard against or to guard your sensitive systems, you'll need to implement multi-factor authentication. This adds an extra layer of protection beyond username and passwords and helping prevent unauthorized access, even if the credentials are stolen. They want to see regular data backups. If you don't have routine backups, you're highly vulnerable. Insurers want to see that you can restore your systems quickly in case of data loss. Endpoint protection and antivirus on all systems. This shows that you're actively stopping threats before they can cause damage. Employee cybersecurity training. Your people are part of your defense, and insurers expect you to train employees regularly so that you can recognize and report threats. And this is one that is hard to, and Rhonda can attest to this, it's hard to implement and make sure your people are doing, but it's the first thing that we generally get asked is from our customers from an insurance company is what is that training look like and what is the success rate of having the employees take that training? What is your
Mark?
Yes.
I would interrupt there since you called my name out and
Sure.
say that what we've seen recently is that your number one security threat is an end user that is not knowledgeable of what they're doing or an end user that is in a hurry. So going through the cybersecurity training, which takes very little time, it just really makes a huge difference in why and where and when people can get a hold of your credentials.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. The big one that we've seen recently, just in the last 24 months, is your incident response plan. So they want to see a documented plan. They want to see that plan tested. You know, if a situation occurs, they don't want to see you taking 2 or 3 days to implement some type of an incident response. They want to see that you're going to be able to contact the required participants of an incident, that you do it quickly and in a staged manner. They want documentation and proof of your controls. That is something, again, that we have seen really within just the last 18 months. What we mean by controls, and this is one that they use for denial of a claim, that is your Active Directory. What are the rules? What are the, in your GPOs? What are the roles? And making sure that your own internal people are blocked from any sensitive data if they don't require access to that type of thing. And, then there's several others like internet access controls, wireless access controls, printing access controls. Most of these aren't just technical requirements, but business critical safeguards. And even with these measures in place, coverage isn't guaranteed. Some of the things that I want to show you are why claims get denied. These are the 3 most common. And you don't want it to be when you need coverage to find out that you're going to be denied. Claims are denied more often than you think, or payouts are reduced. And it's very frustrating. A lack of proper security controls. In the last slide, we highlighted some of the most common security measures insurance look out for. However, certain insurers might need something specific and beyond what we've discussed. As different insurers have different sets of security requirements to validate your policy, it's good to always read the fine print. And I know those documents are long. I think mine was 38 to 40 pages. Incomplete or outdated documentation. Even if you have everything in place, but your records are out of date or incomplete, they'll sink your claim on that. Insurers need to see proper proof that you've maintained your security posture consistently, and that evidence needs to be able to be brought in a timely manner and not, from 6 months ago. Insufficient incident response plan. If you don't have a foolproof plan for how your team responds during an incident, insurers see that as a big red flag. It shows a lack of preparedness and your claim may be rejected. Now, let's talk about where your IT service provider or your internal IT groups fit into this equation. When it comes to cyber insurance, your IT service provider internal IT group plays a vital role. You're not expected to navigate the technical requirements alone, and we can help you in following ways. Qualify. Most businesses struggle to translate insurer requirements into clear, actionable steps. What we do is provide a bridge of that gap by making sure your systems and processes meet at that bar, helping you qualify for the policy. Maintenance. A good IT service provider doesn't just react to incidents. They work round the clock, helping set up tools like MFA, run employee training, and implement routine backups so you're always one step ahead. Also, what we do is we look at any alerts 24/7, 365. So all of your cyber security tool sets put out alerts, and we look at every alert, document those, and determine whether it's a false positive or it's an actionable step. For recovery, should an incident occur, your provider helps minimize the damage. The faster you respond and recover, the more likely your claim will be accepted and the less impact your business will feel. Whether it's strengthening your posture, documenting proof, or supporting fast recovery, the right partner or the right plan for your internal group helps you meet your insurance demands without derailing your daily operations. This is where Nomerel helps. We'll start by assessing your environment and identifying what's missing. We actually have a compliance application package that we've used for things like compliance for our medical clients, CMMC for our government contractors, and what we've done in the last year is add a cyber compliance. It's the most common requirements we see across all insurance providers, but we're able to go in, and if there's any specific requirement from an insurer, we're allowed to go in and put that in and then monitor and document against that requirement. We'll tailor a solution that aligns with both your business goals and insurance expectations. And we have seen requirements from insurance providers that are disruptive or highly disruptive to your standard daily business operations. And we've been able to move and create a plan that minimizes that effect. We'll go beyond implementation and make sure everything is documented and audit ready, because the first thing they start asking for during a claim is that evidence and proof that you do have the protections and that they were monitored and up to date. When it comes to incident response, we don't leave that to chance. We'll help you build and test a fast, clear, and compliant response plan. We even have templates for your policies and procedures. A lot of people don't know all of the policies and procedures and the requirements for those. So we've built a template library, and we'll help you identify which one of those are needed within your environment. The big thing is you shouldn't have to choose between running your business and meeting your insurer's demands. We'll help you focus on growing your business while we handle the IT headaches and the compliance headaches. And that's basically it. It's short and sweet. Rhonda, did you have anything else that you wanted to put in?
Well, I do have a little bit that I would like to add before we do have some questions that Faith received earlier and some questions that we get a lot. But one of the things that I did want to point out when you're talking about filling in your insurance requirements and doing the form each time around is that you had mentioned some things that you have seen in the past, and I didn't hear you mention it today, but where some people take it upon themselves to complete their cyber insurance form. And we're seeing your questions over here, Mark. So are you?
There we go.
There we
I saw your questions.
So what I'm hoping to talk about before you get into those questions is when should people reach out? Should do to talk about their, I just got this cyber insurance renewal in the mail, should they reach out? Should they not reach out? Should they attempt to do it on their own? Should they involve their IT company?
Absolutely.
Should there be a
Absolutely.
fee for that?
In the past, we have not done a fee for that. It was pretty simple 3 years ago. Like I said, 20 questions, and it didn't take us that long to address those questions simply because we were doing all of those things. Now, with the evidence that they're wanting to see either during the application or during, an incident response, we are doing a small fee just to basically cover our time on those. You really shouldn't do that yourself. I have had customers send me their renewal questionnaires, and then they sent me what they provided the insurance provider from the year before and said, should we just answer these the same way, we did last year and, just move forward with this. And I had to tell them that your claim is going to get denied because there are requirements in here that, we didn't know of. And even though we're managing your environments to industry best standards and practices, there are some things from your insurance provider that are beyond those. They want to see specific things. They want to see quarterly reports, or, they want reports included. With that, we're seeing requirements that we take a screenshot of how the Entra environment, if you're on Entra or if you're on Active Directory or GPOs, they want to see those screenshots of how that's set up. For email protection, they want to see what your compliance level is in the Microsoft email tenant, your 365 tenant.
So I think some of those seem to be a lot more stringent for, we see it in the government and the HIPAA side, right? Where they ask for demonstration of or proof of how you're doing this. And that's where those screenshots come in, I think is what you're talking about. Another thing you mentioned earlier is that people might get reduced payments. Does that stem from the fact that they may have filled out their insurance form on their own and done it incorrectly?
So the first thing that we see during an incident is the insurance company, they want to see a police report. They want to see the federal authorities notified. And, and then they want to start working the claim along with a forensic analysis. How did these people get in? Are they still in the environment? And they want to make sure that it's not one of your own internal people. We get asked a lot of times, can we validate this employee or that employee that, they didn't actually go into the accounting system or share out their email.
Or their password.
Passwords, credentials, all of those pieces of it. So, they're looking for reasons not to pay, putting the burden of proof on the insured entity to prove to them that, it's not an insider threat or an insider caused incident.
Which goes back to that note that we made earlier where your employees are your biggest threat. Right? Because if they're responding to things too quickly or they're not paying attention to the emails that are coming in, they could unintentionally share their credentials with somebody. And then you're going down a rabbit hole of having to stop problems that may occur in the future. Faith, I know we're running very short on time and you've got these earlier questions. So which one you want to take first?
Yeah, really quick before we jump into these, I was going to ask you, do we want to give people an opportunity to ask questions? Because right now I have it set to be mics muted, but I can unmute if that's something you wanted to open up.
That's true. Does anybody have a question? You want to go ahead and open up the mics if you would, just in case somebody wants to have a question or have a little conversation. We do have some questions that we received earlier that Faith has queued up for in the Q&A. So everybody should be able to see those questions. And if anybody wants to vote those up, you can. And then, of course, we want to make sure that before we go or before we end today, that everybody takes a minute to put their email address in the chat so that we can get you your gift certificate for DoorDash for joining us today.
Yes. So one of the questions that I received that I know we get a lot at Nomerel is my cyber insurance covering things that are or were in my general liability coverage? If you take that, Mark.
Yeah, the answer to that's no. General liability is going to cover things like physical property damage, bodily injury, and those types of things. The cyber insurance is specifically for your digital operations, things like data breaches, the forensics. Forensics is hugely expensive, and then the business interruptions that you're going to have. So, the average length of time varies on when your system can be back to operational, because during a breach, I sort of liken it to a robbery at your home. When you go in, they just didn't quickly, find your valuables and then put everything back. The house is a mess. The sock drawers dumped on the floor, books are pulled off the shelf, and that's what your IT environment looks like. So, depending on the level of damage to your internal infrastructure is the amount of time that it takes us to get you back up and operational. That business interruption, you want to make sure that that is covered in your insurance claim in that fine print.
Yeah, okay. We will move on to the next question. The second one was, my insurance company is asking, what am I doing to protect my emails?
Okay, so I would say in the last run, has it been about 18 months or 24 months? We have seen a huge amount or a large increase of compromise into the email tenant, where they're using compromised passwords and login from an employee, getting into the email system and doing things like intercepting your invoices going out to the clients and changing the payment or the ACH. I know you've seen a lot more of those incidents, Rhonda, than
There's
I'm aware of.
also a lot of times these bad actors get in to the email that's been compromised, and they just sit and wait. And they watch the email for a long period of time, and then they see the important people who may be emailing you within your organization, and they will create a rule behind the scenes, one of those Outlook rules that says forward my email to X. And it will actually start forwarding important people emails or specific emails from your bookkeeper or from this person or that person back and forth. They will start having those forwarded to an external email address. Once they create that time when they intercept that $400,000 invoice and they get those things redirected with a new ACH or something of that nature, then they're immediately gone. That email is that they've had it forwarded to. We could try to get to it, but it's not there. As soon as they get what they want, they're gone, and there is no longer any trace of those emails or anything like that. So again, it's definitely lock down the emails. One of the best ways to lock it down and to keep those, even if you gave away your credentials on accident, if you had multi-factor authentication set up with a Microsoft, my words are escaping me, the Microsoft Authenticator, then that is tied to an app on your phone. It's not going to a text. It's not going back to your email, because if your email is compromised and your password reset is coming back to your email, they have your new password now. So you definitely need that Microsoft Authenticator with the MFA put in place. And we have seen that stop more attempts of bad logins than anything else.
And I think in the last 12 months, we've added a tool that basically geofences our client's email tenant and allows us additional controls and alerts of a compromise. So
this
but
tool
email's
is
a big one.
That tool is a really great one because it is watching anybody that's on Entra today or using Azure, as we said that in the past. this tool is in the background and it's looking for those forwarding rules and giving me an alert if a new forwarding rule has been added to somebody's inbox. If it sees attempted logins, password changes, or forwarding rules, sometimes it automatically locks down the email and nobody can work until we get that taken care of. So it's a slight inconvenience, and we may lock the mailbox, kick everybody out of any active sessions, and reset your password. I feel like that's a slight inconvenience that can take care of a big issue if we didn't have it in place. And
I think
it's
the
very
first
nice.
time we became aware of this, the bad actors were watching the emails going around throughout the organization, our customer, and noticed that they had a construction project going on and sent an email from the president's email and asked accounting to open a new checking account so they could put their building funds into it and then let it sit there for 3 weeks and then asked for the money. And of course, the transfer was made, and within 20 seconds, the money was gone. So that's the first time that we saw that happen, and that was about 24 months ago. So, are there any others?
I see
Yes.
Nomerel. Nomerel
Yeah,
is
you
doing
can-
my
you can
backups,
take
but
it.
insurance company asked what my test restore schedule is.
Okay, that's one that has really come up just in the last 12 months. They want proof and evidence that you're doing your backups, but the bad actors are now getting in, and unless your backups are immutable, which ours are immutable, meaning they can't be changed, modified, or destroyed, but they want to see test restores. Part of the reason they want to see the test restores is for the critical data. How long does it take to get the data back and get you into somewhat of an operational standpoint? Because they want to know how long they're going to have to pay out to carry your outage window. Basically, if they're going to be covering the business interruption, how long does that interruption look like? And they'll base their premiums on the business interruption time. And so the quicker that you can get your backups restored and into your business continuance plan, it'll lower your premiums.
Okay, we just have one more question. So the last question is, I got asked for a copy of my business continuance plan. What is that?
Okay. BCP is a strategic document that outlines the procedures for maintaining critical business functions. Not every business function, but these are your critical ones for resuming the operation of your business or any unplanned disruption. It could be a natural disaster, a storm. It could be a cyber attack, or 2020, it could be a pandemic. So basically what they're wanting to see is the BCP for how are you going to continue operations. By the way, if you have a line of credit or a loan at a bank, we're seeing requests from the banks for, what is your BCP? They want to make sure you're going to be able to pay back your loan through the BCP. But with the BCP, it basically provides your framework for recovery, and it can help identify the coverage needs. It reduces your premium costs, supports insurance payouts, and mitigates the incident's impact, all while getting your business up and running quickly, and you internally, your organization, know what steps need to be followed. It could be as simple as we built a BCP for one of our clients, and part of that BCP means that they're operating out of a conference room at a hotel, and we need to get internet access set up for that conference room. Some people have part of their BCP working from home, but again, it's access to your data, it's access to your critical systems and applications.
I want to add to that, Mark. What I found interesting is that, a lot of people lean towards cyber insurance as something just for nefarious acts. And when you bring in the natural disasters that can be part of that, what is a beautiful thing is when you look at your business continuance plan and you say, okay, we're moving from an on-prem environment where we have on-prem servers and this, that, and the other to an Azure or an Entra environment where we now are using SharePoint in the cloud and we're using OneDrive on our devices. And, this can be where we've seen somebody leave their laptop sitting next to the car as they packed it and drive off and drive over it. And the way they get back up and running real fast is because all they need is a new device and be able to have their Entra profile put on it, and they're off and running because nothing was saved to that device. Another thing that we saw just this last spring is a city sewer flood an entire office. And everything in that office, fortunately, that company had just previously moved to an Entra environment where they were using SharePoint and OneDrive and no longer had to be directly on that server. So their cyber insurance is helping to pay that claim to pick them up from their old building while it's being restored, which is going to take about a year to do, and paying for them to be put into a new building with new drops for Ethernet, and everybody's able to get up and going, but they were able to work from their homes, their garages, what have you, in the meantime, because they had that Entra environment going already. All right.
Is there any other questions?
I don't see any have come in. I don't see
Okay.
anybody asking questions. So I think we've done it.
Okay, and be sure to put your email in there so we can send you lunch. And was that what you would ask me to remember at the end, Rhonda, or did I forget what you asked?
It is because, they've taken the time away from their day, and I want to make sure we give them back some lunch or something for doing so. So perfect.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. And if you have any other questions, just reach out to me and I can get those answered for you. And if you need us to look over your cyber policy, send it to us.
Okay. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks.